You're listening to the Weekly Wrap-Up on Sprott Money News.
Well, hello again from Sprott Money News and SprottMoney.com. It's Friday, July the 19th, 2019. This is your Weekly Wrap-Up. I'm your host, Craig Hemke, and joining us as usual on a Friday morning is Eric Sprott himself. Eric, good morning.
Hey, Craig, good morning. What a wild, wonderful week we had, and I'm sure we'll have lots of interesting things to chat about.
No doubt about that, my friend. Hey, every week it seems like here in the summertime I lead off telling everybody about either the deals page at Sprott Money or the Sprott Super Summer Sale, which it ends in like 12 days. So people need to take advantage of this, and they should have taken advantage of it last week, Eric, because silver now is over $1 higher than it was last Friday. So there's still time, though. The Sprott Super Summer Sale goes on till July 31st. You can go to SprottMoney.com and check us out, or you can call us up at 888-861-0775. Eric, over $1 in silver, $27 more in gold, making new highs, going all the way back to May of 2013. How do you feel here on Friday, the 19th of July?
Well, it's very exciting. As I kind of warned on the broadcast last week, I warned our listeners that I might buy all the silver that Sprott Money had in inventory. Well, you know, I bought the equivalent of what they had in inventory, but I did buy it through a different physical route. Put in about $10 million into silver in the week. Obviously, silver wants to go here. The setup on the CME is incredible. I mean, people are short. The bankers are short almost 1.2 billion ounces of silver, and you know what? The world wants to own silver. And I used the analogy, I think it was last week, that if the bank from, was it Hungary or Poland, that bought the 100 tons of gold had put their money in silver, there'd be no silver. And it just, the reason I say it, it's so easy. You know, what's $15 billion in this day and age to clean out all the inventory? So we got a wonderful setup with all the shorts in silver. We got a wonderful setup with all the shorts in gold. They continue to sell these two metals short to try to limit the rise in the price, and yet we see physical volumes pouring into the ETFs. You just mentioned to me off phone here that 11 tons came into the GLD yesterday. Well, you know, you can't do 11 tons for 250 trading days a year. You'd be buying every ounce of gold ever produced. Yeah. And it's not just the GLD. I mean, there's ETFs over in Europe that are hot too, and in Asia. So, I mean, it's a worldwide thing. We all kind of know that more and more experts are going to the reasoning behind gold's move. The latest person was Ray Dalio, who said, "Oh, it's so obvious that we're going to go to negative interest rates here. What do you get on? We're going to have a paradigm shift." That's an important word. We're going to have a paradigm shift, where what worked before doesn't work, and new things will work. And the new thing that he pointed out was a gold trade. And, you know, people suggest, well, have 10% of your money in gold. Well, you know what? Gold and gold shares represent about 0.5% of people's portfolios. And you know, how do you get to 10?
Right.
I mean, it's impossible. Like, you know, it's almost like the price has to go up 20 times to get to 10%. And we seem to be on that kind of a drive where we had this huge breakout. The gentleman who kind of tipped me off to things at the end of May, when he said, you know, it's going to 1450 in 5 to 7 weeks, and it almost did exactly. I think it went to 1443. He's now coming out and suggesting a target of 1750. Now, I want our listeners to know, if gold goes to 1750, there will be substantial, outerworldly amounts of money made in the equity shares in the precious metals business. The UE index is already up almost 50% from the end of May.
Yeah, 2 months.
From the low. I mean, it's incredible. Okay, and we've just started.
Yeah.
So it kind of looks good, and I really want to focus in on silver, because some of the silver targets that I see out there are substantive. And let's just, they're twice as big as I'm going to mention, but let's just say 50. Okay, let's say silver goes to 50. Well, now the average guy's cost might be 15 and 20. Let's just say 20. So fine. Now he's making $30. Now you just figure out how many ounces of silver the guy's going to make, multiply by 30, tax it, and that's what he's going to earn. And then tell me how cheap a multiple it is, and you realize what can happen to some stocks. And the silver stocks have gone crazy this week. I don't even know what percent they've gone up. I've had stocks this week that have gone up 50%.
Yep.
So there's so much more to happen there. We've just started on silver. I mean, it's going to be very exciting going forward here. And I've been very active in the silver space this week and last week. A couple of them have been announced. One was announced yesterday about some discovery metals. There's other ones I'm working on that there's probably something happening, but it hasn't been completed yet. And I'm making a transition from, let's say, a high quality gold stock to lesser known silver and gold names, and particularly gold names where the leverage is incredible.
Eric, how far, it's hard to speak in generalities, but some of the exploration companies are still they're just kind of going sideways. The stuff down in the Pilbara hasn't really bounced back yet. In general, what kind of market participation, what kind of price rise do you think, really sets off a scramble where people are just looking for anything?
Not going to be far from here. We're testing the recovery highs that we've had here, okay? And in fact, we might have gone through them yesterday. I haven't even had it. I'm not in my office. I haven't had a chance to check the exact, whether we were $2 higher. I think we had a record closing high for this year. But it's not going to take much more. I mean, if people see gold going to 1,500, look at the bottom to 1,050. We're at 1,500. We're in a bull market. We're in a bull market in the equities. When stocks go up 20%, it's a bull market. The UE index is up 50. And I am looking for small cap names. I'll give you an example of a name. I won't mention the name, but the stock was trading at $350 in 2011, which was the high for the price of gold, and also the high in Canadian dollars, the Canadian company. And the Canadian dollar price of gold at the high was $18.80. And the price today is $18.80. And this company is trading at 1/17th of its high. 1/17th of its high. And they're involved in a major discovery. These things can go like scalded cats. We had a company in Canada called GG Gold, came up with a beautiful hole up in the Golden Triangle, and that stock's up 100% now. It's going to happen in a hurry here. So you got to be looking real hard. You got to take risks. You got to make the assumption that big things are happening. And how do I participate in this? Can I buy silver in the ground for 10 cents? Can I buy gold in the ground for like $25? That sort of thing, because anybody who's got any gold in the ground, when gold gets to some of these targets like 2,000, every ounce anybody has in the ground will be economic. So that's what I've been spending a lot of my time doing here in these last few weeks.
Yeah, no, it's an exciting time, and what's fun is you and I have been talking about this really all year, that this was going to be a big year, that the central banks were going to be reversing policy, and that nobody was anticipating and expecting that. And when you talk about the amount of global assets that are not in gold, I'll give you another stat, Eric. Just this week, the Chinese, it was announced the Chinese were liquidating some treasuries again. It was a very small amount relative to what they total have. It was like $3 billion worth. But if they were to take just that tiny little bit of money, they have over $1 trillion in treasuries. If they took that little tiny bit of money, it's like 65 metric tons of gold. There's so much fiat cash and so little gold.
And maybe if gold starts moving up fast, people are going to go to silver too.
Right.
Silver really hasn't even had a move yet, relatively. Who's kidding who? And the data we're seeing on physical silver removal and the short position, the COMEX is just screaming at you that man, this thing can really get going here in a big hurry.
I know, Eric, there's a whole list of questions from folks that have sent in this week. And again, I really appreciate all the questions that get sent in from all of our listeners. And we just have, our time is limited each week normally. And so we can't get to all of them. And we'll try to get to most of these today. But Eric, before we go there, I know there are a couple of equities you wanted to discuss directly. Tudor, maybe, and RNX, maybe a little Wallbridge. Why don't you hit us with what you're looking at there?
Sure. Well, it was announced that I made a further private investment into Tudor at 45 cents a share, by the way. The stock closed yesterday at 39, I believe, in Canada. It's in the Golden Triangle. It's drilling a monster play, just like the GT Gold play. The last hole they announced, which was last year, was 563 meters of 1.08 gold. It's in a perfect logistical place to develop it. The market cap of the company's like under 50 million, I think, and yet what we're shooting for is to find the 10 or 20 million ounce discovery. So you're paying nothing for this discovery. So that's the sort of play that I like. Where, man, if the price of gold goes to 1,700 or 2,000, these plays will look so economically viable. And the stock will go up so much. And the analogy I used is Seabridge back in 2000. I remember buying it at $1, and their theory was, well, we're going to buy ore bodies that will work at $400. The price was $250. Well, of course, the price goes to $1,900, and Seabridge went from $1 to $35. That is what we're looking for. $1 to $35 set you up for life.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
How about
now? I should mention. RNC had an announcement that Mark Selby was leaving the company. I don't know the reasoning for it. I presume I might hear something about that this week. It was just announced overnight last night. It was a little critical of Mark for putting the company back into a debt position by buying the mill in Australia. Paul Hewitt will be taking over. He's a veteran mining guy, so. A gold mining guy, which Mark was not a gold mining guy. So hopefully, the stock's been very quiet here relative to everything else, of course. So hopefully this can restart that. In the case of Wallbridge, a company called Balmoral that basically owns all the land around them announced that, we're going to drill just on the border of where Wallbridge is drilling, because we see this formation going on to our property. And that's interesting in the sense that if it does go onto their property, it sort of confirms that, okay, we might have a 2.5 kilometer long property here. Now, you start putting 2.5 kilometers and you've got depths of 600 meters, you've got widths of who knows what the widths are, but man, you can get some big resources here very, very quickly. So we'll stand by on that one. In terms of, I know there was some questions about the Golden Triangle.
That was one of the questions.
Northwestern BC, and I'm in a company called Garibaldi. We used to talk about it. I know that they're drilling, hoping that they'll have some results posted here soon. The stock's telling you that they've been successful in the drilling there, and the whole area you're just elephant hunting in the Golden Triangle. That's where the GTT Gold announcement was earlier this week. The stock was up 100% this year. That's where Tudor is. That's where Seabridge is. That's where Pretium is. SK Creek was there. So it's a wonderful area to make major discoveries.
I also had a couple questions this week, Eric, about some of the streaming companies. Mavericks, Metalla Royalty. Do you ever invest in streaming companies? What do you think about those? Well,
I haven't. And I'm not so sure that is not where I put my money today, because, for those guys, because their cost of the ore is so low, they're a little bit like Kirkland that way, where, your cost of production is essentially, let's say, the $400 you advanced against the gold purchase. So you're already making $1,000 at $1,400. When it goes to $1,600, you're making an extra 20%. Well, there's lots of mining companies whose costs are $1,200. Right. And when it goes to $1,600, they double their earnings. That's the sort of company I'm more interested in owning. So I haven't, and they've been great plays for sure, and I think they're very interesting. but they're not situations that I follow very closely.
You've been talking for a couple of weeks about silver companies and trying to find silver companies that you can invest in. Well, here comes everybody with some suggestions for you. Let me just lay a couple on you. And you tell me if any of these four are anything that you know about. Levon or Levon, Exelon, a company called Exelon, Silver One, or Alexco.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Levon, I just bought 20% of Discovery Metals, which is buying Levon.
Okay.
So that's the answer to that one. That was this week. Okay. Exelon, which has gone up 100% now in about a month and a half. I think I own 27% of that. I haven't bought any recently, but then I'm well positioned. Probably actually restricted from buying it because I'm over 20. So it's a good investment. It doesn't have the leverage of some of the other ones because they're such a high grade silver producer that it wouldn't have the kind of upside that, for example, a Levon might have. We had Alexco. I'm visiting with Alexco this coming week. They're coming to my office. I'm an owner. Good silver play, high grade. So not quite the leverage of a low grade. Levon's low grade, for example, would have way more leverage than Alexco in a high price silver environment. I'm talking high price here now. Go to $50 or $100, something like that. What was the fourth one you mentioned?
Silver One.
Oh, Silver One. Okay. Well, Silver One, I believe I just purchased about 18% of that company. I think that's in the public domain. I sure hope it is. They did an issue that I was a big participant in about 3 weeks ago. So, it's interesting. Two of those four names I've recently purchased. So in recommending that people buy silver stocks, they got to try to get in front of me.
Right.
Because I'm all in.
Right.
And I'm looking every day now. And if there's something that's got some action going, I'm trying to find it early.
Yeah. Eric, let's close with this question because I think this is a good question for a lot of listeners, I suppose, that listen to us every week and are getting excited about the space and they see what's going on in the world, but they don't consider themselves to be hedge fund managers or high net worth or anything like that. This one came in and said, "Look, I'm just a small time buyer of precious metals on occasion. Do you have any advice for us ordinary folk," he says, "who are likely getting older, want to protect our savings rather than leave it in the bank where it doesn't earn any interest, and prefer the safety of owning their investments?" This guy he listens to our talks every week, but he's not a big time buyer. What do you tell somebody like that?
Yeah. Well, of course, I'm an aggressive purchaser, okay, and I'm an aggressive investor.
Yes, you are.
And I kind of preach that everything's about risk reward, and if you won't take any risk, you won't get a reward. And when I'm looking at precious metal stocks, I normally talk about the reward, and the rewards here that we are potentially looking at, which are measurable. And you can, if you're an investor, you can measure it one of two ways. One, okay, what's the guy theoretically got in the ground, okay, and what's the market price of that? You divide the number of ounces into the market cap, and okay, it's cost me $10 an ounce. Now, just do a calculation. Imagine the price of gold goes up 300. Do you think the $10 an ounce is an appropriate valuation if the price of gold just went up by 300? Or do you think maybe that might go to $100 in the ground? Okay, if it goes to 100, you make 10 times your money. Or if he's a producer, calculate the extra profit. Everybody tells you what their cost of producing is. Their ASIC, it's, let's say, $1,100. So at $1,300, he's making $200. At $1,500, he's making $400. His earnings doubled. Has the stock doubled? If the stock has doubled, giddy up, go. And what if gold goes to 2,000? Now the guy's making $900 an ounce. Well, the stock's going to go up by 300 or 400%. So, people can either choose to believe that we have a new paradigm, as Ray Dalio talked about, or don't believe it. So make up your mind. Yeah. Do we have a new paradigm, or don't we have a new paradigm? If we have a new paradigm, big, big, big things that already happened are going to continue to happen in the precious metal space.
Yep. And I'd also encourage those folks to listen to us every single week, wouldn't you? We're going to keep talking about this stuff every week, that's for sure.
Well, it's very exciting. A lot of things have moved now, so it's getting less and less opportunistic because it's more obvious, right? It's more obvious that gold's in a bull market.
Yeah.
It's not obvious that silver's in a bull market, but it sure feels like it's going to be in a bull market. So there's still opportunity. I think there's probably more opportunity in silver than there is in gold. But that could, we could be sitting here next week and silver's at 1750 or something and in a confirmed bull market.
Yeah.
Well, people don't wait around. You got to make your move when the timing is right.
Yeah, I tell you, the burst in price this week in silver had all the kind of the trappings of that initial surge of big money coming in, that you'll look back on it now, 6, 12 months from now and go, yep, that was the point. We've seen it before.
And the interesting thing about it, both in silver and gold, is that the commercials who were short and have shorted into this rally big time, they still haven't covered. In other words, we don't have any influence of them having to cover their shorts. And, maybe they won't. Maybe they can engineer some takedown again. So, for example, maybe they'll get the CME to increase margins on silver and gold, and hopefully they can try to shake people out. That's what happened in, I think it was 2011 or 13. Yep. It was so orchestrated. It was just a joke. Because, we can't have the banks losing money here, even though they prove that they're idiots over and over again. But they've got people trying to protect them. So there's always that risk that somehow the exchanges try to rig the price going down. But there's so much physical buying in the world. If we could have a real sniff that there's a physical problem, then we know we got them. And who knows where that price is going.
Exactly.
It could be way beyond anything you and I have been talking about.
Yeah. And you start getting that, instead of a 0.5% global allocation, you get a 1.5% or a 2.5%. That just simply overwhelms what the banks are trying to do, too.
Yeah, good luck. Right.
Exactly. Well, again, we're going to keep having these talks every Friday. I encourage everybody to listen, especially at such an exciting time. And there is obviously no time like the present to visit SprottMoney.com. You can buy metal there. You can store metal with us at any of our 6 locations around the world. It is just a fabulous time to be getting involved in the precious metals. So please visit SprottMoney.com or call us 888-861-0775. We'll even tell you how to own it in your IRA. Give us a call anytime, Eric. I will give you a call again next week, and I look forward to speaking with you then.
I will look forward to that. I can leave everyone with 2 words: paradigm shift.
I like it. All right, my friend, have a great weekend.
You too, Craig.
And from all of us here at Sprott Money News and SprottMoney.com, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again next Friday.